we have Dan, who is calling in from Canada. Dan from Canada, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hey, Dan, Llana. I'm doing well. Just got back home after a long time out, and I saw the chat question talking about hell, and that got me thinking about demon possession. And I thought, hey, I'll give Objectively Dan a call.
Yeah, it sounds like a good time. Demon possession. We all love demon possessions here. So what about demon possession specifically did you want to talk about?
There was this BBC story I came across a couple of years ago, and I looked it up. It's still up there. Police captain confirms children possessed by demons.
Yep, checks out. I have no question. I have no further questions on that story. That seems legit to me. No, nothing to argue about there. But yeah, that's kind of weird.
Well, yeah. Looking into the story, there was a lot of claims, a lot of weirdness, but somehow even in 2014 there was a cell phone video or just some stated reports of children walking up walls and other typical movie possession stuff. But I just
you thought that was a weird story that you wanted to share, or you just want to get my take?
Yeah, kind of both. And I know you were having some technical difficulties, so I figure I'd give you guys a call with something.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, folks, again, we have open lines, so please go ahead and call in, and we should be able to talk with you guys. But yeah, so, I mean, the thing with these possession stories, it's very funny because the Catholic Church is going to be the first group of people to tell you, oh yeah, like possession's still totally a thing, right? I used to think, well, maybe, a lot of Christians feel differently about this. When I was a Christian and you hear stories about this, it was always like, okay, well, that kind of happened a long time ago, but I don't know if that stuff happens today. But then you talk to the Catholics and they're like, oh yeah, that stuff's happening like all the time. What do you mean? Like they do conferences every year training people on how to exorcise people from these possessions. So I think if you grow up with that understanding, right, like you're going to start to attribute things to that belief being real, right? It's in the same way that I don't think like skinwalkers are real, right? If I grew up in a tradition group or a group that has a tradition of skinwalkers, I'm going to start seeing skinwalkers. I really think that's how it happens with these kinds of things. Same thing with the possession stuff. Unfortunately, possession, of course, quite infamously, being used to the detriment of the mentally ill, right? Folks who do struggle with mental illness seem to have these signs of demon possession, right? Oh, crazy how that turns out. But yeah, it's often been used as a point of discrimination for those who do it. And maybe that's the case here as well. Maybe there's something else going on. I don't know. At the end of the day, though, we are living in 2024, as you mentioned. It is kind of hard for me to believe when people say, oh yeah, this is totally happening. But yeah, I don't know, if somebody acting weird on camera wouldn't be the first time that's happened, probably not the last. I wouldn't jump to the demon stuff, but I don't know, Llana, I'll bring this over to you. Demons, you got demons in your book as well? Maybe
I just have devils in hell. I am demon possession will have to be a completely different book.
Gotcha.
Maybe I'll call it The Exorcist.
Yeah, that seems like a winner to me. But yeah, was demon possession or any kind of demonic influence, was that a source of your interest when you were researching and writing it?
I did not get into that. No.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Dan, I don't know. I think I gave my take. I don't know if Llana has any more words than that, but anything else you want to hear from us?
Yeah, I just, with your poll question up there, I was definitely taught as a child I was hellbound. Yeah, that did lots of good.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
the idea of demons and stuff, yeah.
Was that something that was traumatic for you as a child? Were you like scared of going to hell, or were you confident that you wouldn't? And what made you move away from that?
Oh no, I assumed I was screwed. Yeah, I just yeah, it just always seemed like no, definitely not going to make the cut. That was a huge fear of mine growing up. Um, I think the thing that finally moved me away from it has been talking with atheists and getting a better approach to things. Because, like, I'd still say I have moments where it's like, I fear I'm going to hell. It might all be real and I screwed up. Um, so yeah, it's a long lasting thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely probably one of the worst aspects of my Christian upbringing, and I probably imagine a lot for other people. Besides, like, of course, the absolutely real institutional abuses that can occur in people's lives, and sometimes not even just abuses. Sometimes just the reality of saying, "Hey, this thing I believed turns out just isn't true." Right? That can be a traumatic experience of it in and of itself, and that's not even including when you bring in the supernatural, when you bring in ideas of being possessed or hell being a real threat to you. It's hard for me to take seriously now, but when I was a Christian, it was very real, and it was very hard for me to get over that part of it. So I'm glad, Dan, that you can call this show and talk about your experiences with it, because I imagine there's a lot of viewers that probably still work through that. And if you do work through that, and if you're still working through it, please come in and call the show if you still have fears about it. We've talked to people who are still going through that as well. I would love to hear about your experiences, and I would love to help tell you that things are going to be okay and why you can kind of put some of those thoughts to rest. But anyways, Dan, thanks so much for sharing. Anything else that you wanted to add?
Not really. Keep up the good work. Love the show.
Thanks so much, Dan. That's awesome. And thanks for sharing that story as well.